The year is 1799. Napoleon Bonaparte set out for Cairo from Alexandria. In great secrecy, he had arrived to the Ottoman territory. The march through the desert proved grueling, exacerbated by scorching heat and the scarcity of water due to wells being poisoned. Napoleon wished to walk in the footsteps of Alexander the Great, who was a big influence in his career. But the outcome would not be as he expected. By the close of 1797, the French Republic had emerged as the predominant power in Western Europe, triumphing over nearly all adversaries in the War of the First Coalition. Solely Great Britain persisted in hostilities, with Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger displaying renewed resolve, seeking to fund a second coalition against the French. Even though there were some attempts at peace in 1797, Britain was still very determined to keep fighting the war. Simultaneously, the French Directory, governing the Republic, was resolute in concluding the conflict. They put together a strong army of 120,000 soldiers led by General Napoleon Bonaparte. Bonaparte first thought about invading Britain, but saw it was pointless because Britain had a better navy. So he suggested a new plan. The French could weaken Britain's control by creating a colony in Egypt to counter British influence and recover from losses in the West Indies. Egypt's wealth and strategic location were seen as assets to challenge Britain in the Mediterranean and India. The French government also saw potential benefits in a loss, which could curb Bonaparte's rising popularity. Meanwhile, Bonaparte, inspired by Alexander the Great, harbored ambitions of creating his own Eastern Empire. Without perceiving any drawbacks, the Directory granted approval for the expedition. Bonaparte meticulously handpicked 21 half-brigades, comprising approximately 38,000 soldiers, choosing some of the most skilled generals in the French army for his officer corps. In an effort to imbue the expedition with a scientific purpose, Bonaparte enlisted the services of 167 distinguished scientists and scholars from France. Under the direction of mathematician Gaspard Monge, these intellectuals, known as savants, were tasked with conducting research and showcasing European scientific advancements. The presence of these savants ultimately led to significant discoveries, including the Rosetta Stone, marking the inception of modern Egyptology. The French expedition gathered in Toulon, but neither the soldiers nor the scholars knew where they were going. This secrecy was needed because the Royal Navy controlled the Mediterranean. In early May 1798, Vice Admiral Brueys orchestrated a French armada to transport the new Armée d'Orient to Egypt. The formidable fleet comprised 13 ships of the line, 13 frigates, and over 200 transports. When the expedition set sail on May 19th, a squadron of British warships under Horatio Nelson was actively searching the Mediterranean. Fortunately for the French, luck favoured them. On June 10th, the French reached Malta without encountering any issues. Bonaparte, keen on securing the island before advancing to Egypt, ordered an invasion under the pretext that the island had displayed hostility by denying his entire fleet anchorage. Despite the renowned resilience of the Knights of St. John, the island succumbed to the French with minimal resistance. This was made easier because half of the knights were French, and they didn't want to fight against their own people. Following the takeover of Malta, Bonaparte set sail for Alexandria on June 19th. On July 1st, the French fleet anchored off the coast of Alexandria, and Bonaparte disembarked at Marabou, situated 13 kilometers away. The assault on Alexandria took place the following morning. Fueled by thirst, the French attacked with heightened determination, and by midday, the city was under French control. Remaining in Alexandria for a week, Bonaparte set out for Cairo on July 7th, leaving the fleet anchored in Abukir Bay. The subsequent march through the desert proved grueling, exacerbated by scorching heat, mosquito swarms, and the scarcity of water due to wells being poisoned or blocked by Bedouin tribesmen. Morale saw a boost on July 10th when the army reached the Nile. On July 13th, Bonaparte encountered and defeated a Mamluk army led by Murad Bey in the minor battle of Shubrakit. Murad retreated but regrouped, reappearing on July 21st outside the town of Mbabe. Despite seeming outnumbered, with Murad commanding 6,000 mounted Mamluks and a militia force of up to 54,000 fellahin or Arab peasants, Bonaparte remained undeterred. He organized each of his 5 divisions into a square, strategically positioning cannons on the corners. The subsequent Battle of the Pyramids emerged as the most renowned French triumph in the campaign. The implementation of square formations rendered the formidable Mamluk cavalry ineffective, causing horses to rear and throw off their riders when confronted with French bayonets. Within a mere 2 hours, the Mamluks were decisively routed, and in their panicked attempt to flee across the Nile, hundreds met their demise by drowning. Murad Bey's co-ruler, Ibrahim Bey, chose to abandon Cairo without a fight, allowing Bonaparte to enter the city triumphantly on July 24th. However, Bonaparte's streak of good fortune came to an end on August 1st, 1798, when Nelson finally caught up with the French fleet, anchored at Abukir Bay. In the ensuing Battle of the Nile, the French Armada suffered a devastating defeat, with 11 of the 13 ships of the line either captured or destroyed. The explosion of the French flagship Lorient led to the death of Admiral Brueys and 1,000 French seamen. Nelson's comprehensive victory severed Bonaparte from any prospects of supplies or reinforcements from France. Despite these challenges, with much of Egypt under his control, Bonaparte sought to win over the populace. In Cairo, he engaged local sheikhs in theological discussions. He financed a 3-day celebration of the Prophet Muhammad's birthday, during which he was bestowed with the name Ali Bonaparte. In September, the Ottoman Empire declared war on France. On October 20th, word reached Cairo that the Ottomans were amassing an army in Syria to launch an attack on Bonaparte. The same night, Cairo erupted in rebellion. General Dupuy, the military governor of the city, met a gruesome end, being lanced to death in the street. Before Bonaparte could mount a proper response, 300 French soldiers lay dead, and the Cairene rebels sought refuge in the Gama el-Azhar Grand Mosque. Recognizing that any delay would only fuel more of Cairo's 600,000 citizens to join the uprising, Bonaparte responded with ruthless determination. He subjected the Grand Mosque to artillery bombardment before unleashing his infantry. The initial confrontation resulted in the death of 2,500 rebels, and in the ensuing weeks, hundreds more were executed. By November 11th, the revolt had been suppressed, allowing Bonaparte to redirect his focus toward the growing threat in Syria. Opting to preempt the impending Ottoman invasion, Bonaparte led 13,000 men out of Egypt in February 1799. On February 17th, Bonaparte encountered 2,000 Ottoman soldiers defending the fortress of El Arish. Following an intense bombardment, the fortress fell 2 days later, and Bonaparte permitted the garrison to depart after swearing on the Quran not to engage in further hostilities against him. The French continued through Gaza before initiating the siege of Jaffa on March 3rd. After 3 days of siege, Bonaparte sent a messenger to demand the city's surrender. In a gruesome response, Jaffa's governor beheaded the messenger. The following day, infuriated French forces stormed the city, and Bonaparte allowed Jaffa to undergo 24 hours of unrestrained looting. The French army was soon afflicted by bubonic plague following the Jaffa massacres. With a staggering mortality rate of 92% and 270 new cases daily, Bonaparte, while making efforts to visit the sick and care for his men, could only linger in Jaffa for so long. On March 14th, he gathered his able-bodied soldiers and embarked on a journey to Acre. Bonaparte found the city staunchly defended. Jezza Pasha, the governor of Syria, commanded the garrison. The Ottomans received supplies and reinforcements from the cunning British Commodore Sir Sidney Smith, who waged psychological warfare against the French by withholding news from France. Bonaparte initially remained confident in a swift victory until the flotilla carrying his heavy siege guns was captured, forcing the French to endure enemy fire from their own artillery. This marked the beginning of a series of calamities for the besieging army. Over the following 9 weeks, Bonaparte ordered 8 more major attacks, all of which ended in failure. As French casualties accumulated, Bonaparte faced the loss of talented officers. Soon, Sidney Smith executed a masterful act of psychological warfare by allowing one piece of accurate news to reach Bonaparte's army: a newspaper announcing the commencement of the War of the Second Coalition and France's military setbacks in Europe. Recognizing the urgency of his talents in Europe, Bonaparte lifted the siege on May 20th and embarked on the disheartening journey back to Cairo. Upon reaching Cairo on June 14th, Bonaparte assembled every available soldier and marched towards Alexandria. By the time they arrived, Smith had transported 15,000 Ottoman soldiers under Mustafa Pasha to Abu Qir. On July 25th, Bonaparte engaged them in the Battle of Abu Qir, marking his final victory in Egypt. Departing Egypt without informing anyone of his intentions on August 23rd, Bonaparte sailed away with only a handful of officers and savants, leaving the rest stranded in Alexandria. Within 41 days, he returned to France, eventually seizing control of the French government in the coup of 18 Brumaire by the end of the year. Bonaparte's departure from Egypt left the army feeling betrayed, particularly General Kleber, who inherited command of the disintegrating expedition. Kleber, enraged by the abandonment, vowed revenge upon his return to Europe. However, Kleber never had the chance, as he was assassinated in Alexandria in June 1800. Subsequently, command passed to General Manu, who was in charge of defending Alexandria when an Anglo-Ottoman army attacked on March 21st. The Battle of Alexandria resulted in an Allied victory. The Treaty of Paris on June 25, 1802, marked the end of hostilities between France and the Ottoman Empire, leading to Egypt once again falling under Ottoman control.